Good. Okay. Yeah, so this week I'd like to explore what can be slightly can be seen as problematic in this practice, and they are areas around they're not quite afflictive mental states, but they're more around the mental states where there's a lot of lack of clarity. Yeah, so it can be experienced as a kind of as a vague sort of wanting for more awareness, or wanting awareness to be a bit clearer. So it can manifest as confusion, or it can manifest as as a very mild sort of agitation, in my experience anyway. And then there can be because there isn't very much awareness is quite sort of low at that point, but it's still there. We can still be mindful of that, and we can therefore overlook it and see it as a problem in practice. Yeah. And if we relate to it from that point of view, then we are bringing an attitude of bringing a problem, and therefore intensifying wrong view to some extent. So it's important to notice that, and also at the same time to notice that it's there, and notice if there is some pushing to wanting to resolve it in some way. This kind of, it can be almost outside of awareness, this sense of wanting some resolution, resolution, almost in the form of an image. I want that to be more resolved, and therefore one can almost with minimal awareness become caught up with that and not notice that that's what's happening. The other one, and they're quite similar in a way, is sleepiness. Yeah. So in the Triratna tradition, we're often encouraged, and it's quite useful to try and work with sleepiness, to work with drowsiness and sloth and torpor. Whereas with this practice, it is possible or possibly more fruitful, to notice that even when the mind is completely almost shutting down with drowsiness and sleepiness, can be really heavy, even nodding, is to notice that awareness is still present. There may be moments where one literally blanks out and drops off, but they'll be very, very momentary. So in a period of drowsiness that may last for the whole practice, sometimes we can then easily get into a bit of a tug and pull with it, so that we're constantly trying to be awake, trying to stay awake, which can be helpful, can be useful, but it's also useful to just let that be there, and allow a bit of interest to come, and not force it, to notice that sleepiness is present, and these are low-level awareness states. And the reason they're important, because there is a spectrum of mindfulness, of sati, that we can often tend to unconsciously almost, or make an assumption that there are certain types of experience that indicate that we're aware, and other experiences that are not. So we can tend to privilege those experiences that are, characterized by clarity and spaciousness, and even a degree of pleasure in the practice, so that we can come away and then think, oh, I was very aware during that practice. And that is so. However, that when that happens, when there is a lot of clarity and a lot of space and interest, that is mindfulness at when it's becoming established and solid, and there's concentration arising. Yeah, because with that there will be some pity, some pleasure, and there will be some buoyancy and happiness in the mind, which allows that concentration to emerge. So what we're looking at in these states, well, this, if there's sleepiness present, or this kind of vague lack of clarity, it's not necessarily an indication that mindfulness isn't present. It's just an indication that mindfulness is low, perhaps, and that's where we need to rest our attention, because mindfulness can only grow or develop from where it's at. It can only gain momentum from its particular present pace. Yeah. So if we're judging that practice, notice that as well. Oh, am I judging that level of practice? And I said, oh, I was just sleepy, I was just vague, and I didn't know what was going on. Well, that's what's happening. And that can be known as well. Yeah. So bringing that attitude of acceptance to all of experiences, not just the experiences that have a sense of fruition or a sense of deepening, however lovely they can be. These more sort of murky states can be very fruitful, because they can be an opportunity to allow interest to arise. Yeah. And also it's useful to step back, as it were, when that is happening, and just okay, that it's a very vague sense of awareness. I'm not quite sure what's going on, and that vagueness can kind of spread over several minutes, or sometimes with the whole practice. So it's important to have that, to cultivate that ability to be with that experience with some curiosity and interest. Okay, so I've said enough. And, obviously, if that's not happening, it's not that we're looking for that in our practice. It's more that when that is happening, it can be noticed. It's part of the practice. It's part of the progression of mindfulness. Okay, so set yourselves up for a sit. And do what you usually do to settle yourself, comfortable, relaxed. And if there is sleepiness there, then kind of explore it, really. Awareness is always present. Mindfulness is not. So sampajñana, the aspect of awareness that knows, that brings fully knowing to experience, is something that can be cultivated. The awareness doesn't need to be cultivated. It is just present. And that's what we need to give our confidence to, the awareness and the noticing of it. Okay, so 40 minutes.